A few weeks ago on the podcast, I talked about talking about the 4 different buyer types. And so this is the episode where I talk about the 4 different buyer types. I learned about the 4 different buyer types back in, I think it was Q1 of 2022. I had joined a 4-month mastermind, and she taught about like sales psychology, and she talked about the 4 different buyer types. And it was really eye-opening to me, because I realized that when I was selling, I was only talking to 1, maybe 2 different buyer types majority of the time when I was selling, which means that I'm leaving out 50% of my audience and not giving them the details and the information and selling in a way that really makes them feel validated and confident in the decision to purchase from me. So it was really eye-opening, and it's still something even to this day that I not only use when I sell on my Instagram stories, when I go to create sales copy for my sales pages, for my emails, for my funnels, but it's also something too that I look at when I go to other people's sales pages. When I look at their sales content, I am always viewing it from the lens of like, ooh, what buyer types are they talking to? And even the conversations that I have with people in my direct messages, like what types of questions are they asking? And usually I can figure out what type of buyer they are just simply through the conversation that we're having. And so that's what I really hope that this episode starts to do for you today. This is going to be more of a Spark Note version of what these 4 different buyer types are, because I could create an entire course on the 4 different buyer types. There's so much that we could dive into, so much psychology behind each of these buyer types. But I'm going to keep it nice, short, and sweet for you today, just straight to the point, giving you enough information that you can start to actually go out and implement this and start to recognize the 4 different buyer types, but not to the point where you're feeling very overwhelmed. So the first thing that I want to say right off the bat, like I was saying with my experience, is I was only selling mainly to like 1 or 2 different buyer types. And that usually is the case. When you learn about these buyer types, you're going to start to recognize like, oh, you're selling mainly to the buyer type that you are. So I want you to listen to this episode, not just through the lens of like learning about the different buyer types, but trying to figure out what type of buyer type you are. Because I think it really is interesting. It does teach you a lot about who you are as a person. And once I learned this, I was like, oh my gosh, I am such this type of buyer, which for me, I'm a driver buyer, which I know that makes no sense to you right now, but I promise it'll make sense here in just a few minutes. But it was just so like validating to myself, like, oh yeah, like that is how I buy, and just like recognizing my own patterns of how I purchase. And it's really helped me to recognize other people's patterns as well. Like I totally know what my husband's buyer type is. I'm saying this quietly because he might be listening to me as I record this podcast episode, but it really is just so interesting. And why does knowing these 4 different buyer types help you as a business owner? The first one right off the bat, it reduces objections. It reduces a lot of objections actually before they even happen, because you're giving people the information that they want without them even having to ask. And so it's almost like you're reading their mind, because you already know what they need to hear and what they need to see in order to purchase. Number 2, it increases trust without posting more, because again, you're validating them, you're giving them the information that they need to hear to feel confident in a purchasing decision, which the information that people need to hear is going to be different for each person. And that's why there are these 4 different buyer types. And third and lastly, it really layers in psychology, which is not something I'm going to dive super deep into. Just know that this is all rooted in sales psychology. Like this is not just like some random thing that ChatGPT pulled up. This is all rooted in sales psychology, which is really rooted in logic, emotion, power, and belonging. Like those are the 4 different emotions that we're going to, not emotions. Those are the 4 different sales psychology levers that we're going to be looking at through each of these 4 different buyer types. So all that being said, the first buyer type is your analytical buyer. Now your analytical buyer, they are really motivated by, can you guess just by the title? Logic. They're really motivated by analytics. They want the facts, they want clarity. They are usually a very risk-averse person. Like they don't like taking big risks, and they think about things for a really long time before they make a decision, especially a big decision. So like if you're selling a one-on-one coaching package or something that's high ticket to an analytical buyer, they're generally going to take a longer time to purchase from you, because they're going to need to think about it, and they're going to do all of the research. They're going to ask all of the questions They want to know what time all the calls are going to be at. They want to know how many modules it's going to be. They want to know how long it's going to take them on a weekly basis, like on average, to go through the offer. Like those are the types of things that they're thinking about and asking questions about. And they also are someone that if things feel confusing or vague, like you don't give them the details, they're not going to feel confident in purchasing, and they're probably not going to purchase at all. And lastly, if you have content that is clear, structured content, that is going to lower their perceived risk, and it builds trust just because they are risk averse. They want that information. And so if you give that to them, that's obviously going to make them so happy, which is going to build that trust with them. Now, content to create for the analytical buyer, straight to the point facts. Like if you're looking at a sales page, they're the people that go to like the bullet point lists, the module breakdowns, the details of like what time is the call going to be, if it's like a live masterclass. Like those are the things that they are looking for. So again, straight point to the facts, straight and point to the facts, bullet points, summaries, things that are like simple visuals. So like if you have like a visual of maybe like the framework that you teach inside of an offer, that's a really great thing to include inside of their charts, step-by-step things. Those are all things that they are looking for. Frequently asked questions section, definitely add a frequently asked questions section specifically for the analytical buyer, because as you can guess, they have a lot of questions. And so even if your sales page is like super extensive, they still are going to probably have questions. So that frequently asked questions section is really, really helpful for them, and it's going to make them feel even more confident in purchasing. And you also want to be calm and not pushy with them. Like this is not the type of buyer where you want to, like be like, oh, you have to buy by tomorrow. Like they are going to need their time to decide. So give them the space to decide. So that's your analytical buyer. Your second buyer type is your amiable buyer. Now, what is the amiable buyer? The amiable buyer is really motivated by connection and trust and emotional safety. This person is really a people pleaser when it comes to really any decision, but especially big decisions. And so they're not just thinking about themselves, they're also thinking about others and what they're going to be perceived via others. They really want reassurance. So especially if they're making a higher, well, I would say, unless it's like low ticket, this might not be the case for low ticket, but definitely for mid ticket and high ticket, they want reassurance of like, yes, this is the right decision for you. Yes, this is going to get you the transformation that you desire. Yes, this is going to help with your pain point. And so really being confident in the conversation with them of like, yes, this is the offer for you, and this is why it's perfect for you. And like just that reassurance there and that confidence on your end of like, I know that this can provide the transformation that you're looking for and that they're making the right choice. And they often want to buy, but they're really hesitant out of fear or out of self-doubt. So again, that reassurance is really, really helpful for them. And they are another one where they don't want to feel pressured or pushed. So if you're like following up, pressuring, they're going to probably not purchase from you. They're probably going to unfollow you. They're probably going to block you if you're like super intense about it, right? And that all comes back to like the fact that they really want to feel supported in their decision, and they want to feel like it's almost like a partnership that they're making with you, even though like, even if you're selling them a course, like they want to feel connected to you. They don't want it to just be, they don't want to feel like they're just a transactional sale, basically is what I'm saying there. So the content that you want to create for your amiable buyer is really warm and nurturing language, using very direct language. So instead of saying like, oh, you guys you do this, or like, these people or women, like you want to use very direct language, like you are going to, have the best transformation. This offer is perfect for you. And so it feels really personalized and individual to them. Even using their name is really, really great. So like if you're writing a sales email, adding in that personalization of their name into the sales email is really, really powerful. Even if that email is being broadcasted out to your entire list, adding that personalization is really, really great for this amiable buyer. They want content that validates their feelings and hesitations. So you need to know what they are feeling. You need to know what their hesitations are so you can call those things out. And you want to call them out directly, but obviously like in a kind and loving way where it's like, I know that you're experiencing this, and because of that, here's XYZ information. Or, I know that you're sitting there lurking on the sidelines thinking about XYZ, you're asking yourself XYZ question, like you really want to get specific with like what is it they're thinking, what are the specific scenarios that they are going through, and what are the questions that they're asking themselves in order to really feel confident in purchasing from you. They also really like stories that show support and guidance and hand-holding. So if you have an offer like one-on-one coaching, or if you have that hand-holding aspect to your offer, like some type of support, they really like knowing about that. So really highlighting that in the logistics as you're sharing about your offer. They also really like community-focused messaging. So you're not doing this alone, we're in this together. Again, that kind of ties back to like they're motivated by connection and trust. And testimonials that really emphasize relief, safety, and support. So if you have any of those, making sure that you're incorporating some of those testimonials onto your sales pages as well as in your content. The third type of buyer, which is the buyer that I was talking about earlier, is your driver buyer. Now, this driver buyer is motivated by power, leadership, results. They are really confident decision makers. They're not going to take as much time to decide. And if you make it hard for them to purchase something from you, they're going to go out and find someone else to purchase from. Like, for example, usually with your driver buyer, they've done their research, and like when they're ready to purchase, they're ready to purchase. Like for me, and I know this is not the case for everyone, but for me, like as a driver buyer, if I am like, hey, I want to hire a one-on-one coach, and I go to this person's page that I want to hire, and they have a sales call that I have to hop on before I can purchase from them, I will go and find someone else to purchase from, because I don't want to hop on a sales call. I want to buy right now because I already know that I am ready for a coach. So that is very much like the driver buyers. Like once they decide something, like they're ready to buy now, and you better make it as easy as possible for them to purchase from you. These people they're very bold. They convert very quickly when something feels aligned. Like I was saying, they often become high-level clients or repeat buyers, and they don't want to be sold to. They want to choose, because that's a little bit more of like an ego type of thing. They want to think that it's almost like their idea instead of your idea. And so that's the driver buyer. But the content to create for the driver buyer, you want to include clear wins and results, because they are very, very result driven. So not just the results of your clients, but also your results. Like, what makes you credible to be teaching this? Have you had results in the topic that you are teaching? They really like anything that's like credibility. So anything that's like social proof, credentials, experience, anything like that, definitely highlighting that. Like the about me section on like a sales page, where you're talking about your experience, why you're credible to teach the topic of whatever offer it is that you are teaching, or whatever offer it is that you are selling. They are going to really, really love that section. So making sure you include that in there. Even if your audience probably already knows you, like the organic traffic that's landing on the sales page, you still want to include that. Anything that is like time saving or efficiency based outcomes, because driver buyers really do value, not to say that anyone doesn't value their time, but driver buyers especially are looking to save time. They want to make the most amount of money. They want to get the results the quickest, fastest way possible. So like efficiency based outcomes. And any messaging that really positions your offer as a power move, and tying in confident storytelling, where whether that's your own story, other client stories, even just stories from your day-to-day life of how your offer integrates into that, that's really, really powerful for the driver buyer, specifically around success and growth. So whatever that looks like for your offer and the topic that you're selling, really focusing on success, growth, credibility, wins, authority, all of that good stuff. That's really what driver buyers are looking for. Your fourth and final buyer is your expressive buyer, and they're really motivated by recognition, by appreciation, and emotional connection. Now, they love being seen, celebrated, and valued, and they're really drawn to energy, vibe, and community. So if your offer has a community aspect, definitely highlighting that, because the expressive buyer loves community, they love connecting with people. And if you have if you have some type of challenges that are happening, even if you just have new students that you're welcoming into an offer, writing their name down, like for example, pointing over here. If you're watching YouTube, I'm pointing at my wall. You can't see it, but I have stars that I have hung up on my wall for all of my scalability students with their names on it. And so that's something that expressive buyers really, really love, and that they literally, like, I have had, I remember when I taught the 4 different buyer types inside of a challenge that I was doing a few years ago. And one of my students, who's an expressive buyer of mine, she reached out to me and she's like, I just watched the 4 buyer type training. She's like, I'm an expressive buyer. And she's like, every time that you, I used to do sticky notes, but now I do stars. But she's like, every time you do sticky notes and like I purchase an offer from you, like I always look for my name on the wall. And so that is your expressive buyer. And that's such a simple way to recognize your expressive buyer. Now, if you have a community and you have new people who are entering your community, like welcoming those people in the community, or if you're doing challenges in the community, highlighting the person that it has like a specific transformation or like a specific win, or maybe they've unlocked something in your community, like recognizing those people. That's really what expressive buyers really, really love. They really bring excitement. They are really great at referring people into your world. They have a really great energy. They're really, really great buyers to have inside of like masterminds, inside of communities, inside of any offer, of course, but anything that has more of that community support based aspect to it. And they really they buy based on how something feels. So if it feels like a good decision, then like they really move based on emotion and not so much on logic. Not to say that they're not logical, but they really move based on emotion. They want to feel special, and they're going to become your biggest advocates, your biggest cheerleaders, your repeat buyers. Expressive buyers are oftentimes driver buyers and other buyers. If you have a really good offer and they feel connected to you, will turn into your expressive buyers, which is exactly what you want. I love my expressive buyers because they are my repeat customers. They're the people that are sharing about my offers without me even asking. They're the people who are in my referral program that are my top affiliates. Like, those are your expressive buyers. Now, content to create for them, I kind of already touched on this, like inside the community, making sure you're highlighting them, highlighting them publicly as well, making them feel seen and loved. Anything that's like a personalized aspect. So like if you can send any type of like personalized like welcome video or like a handwritten note, like those things, even if they're small, go way above and beyond, and that will like get them to be a client for life. And spotlighting star clients, talking about your own values and how you genuinely love your clients, like just that alone, like that, the value piece, they connect with values, because if you value something similar to them, they're going to feel really connected to you. But then just talking about how much you genuinely love your clients, like it is going to make them feel really good and really seen and really lit up. So those are the 4 different buyer types. So you have your analytical buyer, your amiable buyer, your driver buyer, and your expressive buyer. Those are your 4 buyer types. Now, how do you integrate this information into your business? I want you to pay attention to how you sell. So go to your sales page. Let's just start with just one single offer, but you can do this for all of your offers. Start with just one offer and make sure that you're talking to each of your buyer types. So I kind of giving you like a little bit of an idea as to what each of these buyer types are looking for when they're going to purchase an offer. So making sure that you have those. Like for the analytical buyer, do you have those bullet points? Do you have a frequently asked question section? For the driver buyer, do you have an about me section on your page? Do you have testimonials? Do you have that, success stories and growth stories, or the efficiency-based outcomes that they're looking for? So kind of going through your sales pages and figuring that out. And then over a week of selling on Instagram stories, I want you to like reflect on that week and even go back into your Instagram story archive and see, okay, as I've sold over the last 5 days or 7 days or however many days you've sold on Instagram stories, what buyer type did I hit on each of those days? And really just making sure that in a 7-day period on Instagram stories that you're hitting on at least each of those buyer types once. Now on Instagram stories, you might be hitting on multiple buyer types just within one Instagram story, and that's really fantastic too. But I would say on Instagram stories, for whatever reason, people really do cater, not even just to their own individual buyer type, but really to analytical buyers with sharing things like features and benefits of an offer. And so really making sure that we're branching out of not just talking about the features and benefits, that we're hitting on these other buyer types as well. And then lastly, pay attention to the conversations that you're having with people via email, or if you're doing sales calls or even in direct messages. And if you listen and you pay attention closely to the questions that they're asking and how they are, just navigating that conversation in general, you can generally figure out what type of buyer they are, and then you can cater the conversation to them and better serve them when you understand what their buyer type is. So all this to be said, you don't need separate strategies for each of these buyer types. You don't have to, upend the way that you sell, but just really starting to pay attention to the way that you sell and who you're speaking to when you sell. Whether that be on Instagram stories or in your emails or on a sales page or in a direct message conversation, it can be really, really powerful. And really being intentional with layering in these different buyer types. So it's not like, oh, on Monday I have to talk to driver buyers, and on Tuesday analytical buyers. Like, you can layer in, information and messaging and even just simple screenshots of different types of testimonials into each story set each day to hit on those 4 different buyer types. So to recap, you have your logical buyer, which is your analytical buyer. Amiable buyers are really driven by safety. Driver buyers by power. Expressive buyers by belonging. And when people feel understood, buying really stops feeling risky, and they're going to stop having so many objections, and they're really going to start purchasing is going to really start feeling like an obvious decision for them, and they're going to feel really supported, really confident and secure in their decision purchasing from you.